Ancient Egypt is famous for its human mummies, but the Egyptians did not only mummify people, they also mummified millions of animals. This was a very important part of their culture and religion. Animal mummies were created for many different reasons. They were not just pets. They were seen as sacred beings. They were a connection between humans and the gods. This practice shows us how much the ancient Egyptians respected the natural world. They believed that animals held special powers and deserved a place in the afterlife. The practice of mummifying animals lasted for a very long time in Egypt. It spanned over 1,000 years, from the Old Kingdom all the way to the Roman period. Finding these animal mummies helps us understand ancient beliefs. Archaeologists have discovered huge cemeteries filled with these creatures. Some places contained millions of mummified birds, like the ibis. Other sites were dedicated to cats or crocodiles. Each animal was chosen for a specific religious purpose. The care taken to preserve these animals tells us they were deeply valued in society. Many people think animal mummies were just beloved pets. They wanted their animal friends to join them in the next life. This was true for some mummies, like dogs buried with their masters. However, most animal mummies served a different, more sacred role. They were prepared as offerings to the gods. An Egyptian person might buy a cat mummy to give to the goddess Bastet. This was like sending a prayer to the goddess. The mummy was a physical message, a way to ask for a blessing or give thanks for a prayer answered. These preserved creatures give us a unique window into the past. They are not just historical artifacts, they are divine creatures. They reveal the deep spiritual connection between the Egyptian people and the animal kingdom. By studying them, we learn about religious rituals, the economy that supported these practices, and the everyday faith of ordinary people. The sheer number of animal mummies is amazing. It shows a level of devotion that is hard to imagine today. The animals were an essential part of Egypt's journey to the eternal afterlife. The process of mummifying an animal was very similar to mummifying a human. It was a careful and respectful procedure. The first step was to remove the internal organs. This was important to stop the body from decaying quickly. For larger animals like crocodiles or bulls, embalmers would make a cut on the side of the body. They would take out the stomach, intestines, liver, and lungs. For smaller creatures like birds or shrews, this step was sometimes skipped. The organs were either preserved separately or simply discarded, depending on the animal's purpose. Next, the body had to be completely dried out. The Egyptians used a special type of salt called natron. Natron is a natural mixture of sodium carbonate and sodium bicarbonate. It was found in dry lake beds in Egypt. The animal's body was covered inside and out with piles of this salt. The natron would absorb all the moisture from the tissues. This drying process could take around 40 days. It was the most critical step for preservation. Without it, the body would rot away. This ensured the animal's form would be recognizable for eternity. After the body was fully dehydrated, it was time to prepare it for wrapping. The embalmers would clean the body, removing the natron. They might anoint the skin with special oils and perfumes. Sometimes, they would add a coating of warm resin. This dark, sticky substance helped to seal the body and protect it from insects and moisture. The resin also had a symbolic meaning, connected to rebirth and protection. For some mummies, the body cavity was then packed with linen or sawdust to help it keep a lifelike shape. The final step was the wrapping. This was done with long strips of linen cloth. The animal was carefully and tightly wrapped, layer by layer. Each limb might be wrapped individually before the whole body was covered. This process could be very elaborate. Sometimes small amulets or magical charms were placed between the linen layers for extra protection. The finished mummy was often decorated. Artists would sometimes paint a face or other features on the outside of the bandages. The wrapped animal was then ready for its religious duty. The ancient Egyptians mummified a wide variety of animals. Each animal was linked to a specific god or goddess. Cats were one of the most commonly mummified creatures. They were connected to the goddess Bastet, who was the protector of the home and a symbol of fertility. The city of Bubastis was the center of her cult, and vast cat cemeteries have been found there. People would offer mummified cats to Bastet to gain her favor. These cats were not usually pets but were bred in temple catteries, specifically for this purpose. Another important animal was the ibis. This long-beaked bird was sacred to Thoth, the god of wisdom, writing, and magic. Millions of ibis mummies have been discovered at the necropolis of Saqqara. Pilgrims visiting the temples of Thoth would purchase an ibis mummy as an offering. The mummies were stacked from floor to ceiling in long underground galleries. The sheer quantity of these bird mummies shows how popular the cult of Thoth was. The Egyptians believed that offering an ibis would help them gain wisdom or success in their studies. Crocodiles were also mummified, especially in places where they were worshipped. The crocodile god, Sobek, was a powerful deity associated with the Nile River, military strength, and fertility. At the temple of Kom Ombo, sacred crocodiles were kept in pools and cared for by priests. When they died, they were mummified with great ceremony. Some of these crocodile mummies are huge, measuring several meters long. They were buried in special tombs, sometimes with their baby crocodiles mummified alongside them, showing the cycle of life and rebirth. Other animals held significance too. Dogs were linked to Anubis, the god of mummification and the afterlife. They were seen as loyal guides for the soul's journey. Falcons were associated with the sky god Horus, a symbol of divine kingship. Even smaller creatures like shrews, beetles, and fish were mummified. The sacred Apis bull, believed to be an incarnation of the god Ptah, received the most elaborate mummification of all. Each animal, big or small, played a part in the complex religious landscape of ancient Egypt. The main reason for mummifying animals was religious. These mummies served several important functions in Egyptian belief. The most common type was the votive offering. These were mummies that people bought from temples to present to a god. It was a physical form of a prayer. By giving a god a mummified version of their sacred animal, a person hoped to get the god's attention and receive a blessing in return. This created a huge industry around the breeding, mummifying, and selling of these animals, providing jobs for priests, embalmers, and farmers. Some animal mummies were sacred animals that lived in temples. These creatures were believed to be the physical manifestation of a god on earth. The Apis bull of Memphis, for example, was thought to be the living spirit of the god Ptah. Only one Apis bull lived at a time. It was worshipped and cared for its entire life. When it died, the whole country mourned. The bull was then mummified in a lavish ceremony and buried in a massive stone sarcophagus in a special tomb complex called the Serapeum. This ensured the god's spirit could transition to a new bull. A third category of animal mummies was beloved pets. Some Egyptians chose to have their pets mummified and buried with them. They wanted their loyal companions to join them in the afterlife. We find mummified dogs, cats, and even gazelles buried in their owners' tombs. These mummies often have their own small coffins and are sometimes inscribed with their names. This shows a deep personal bond between humans and animals. It reflects the belief that the afterlife would be a continuation of the best parts of life on Earth, complete with animal friends. In conclusion, animal mummification was a vital practice in ancient Egypt. It was not just a strange custom, it was central to their faith, economy, and daily life. These mummies connected the human world with the divine world. They served as messengers to the gods, as living vessels for divine spirits, and as cherished companions for eternity. By preserving these creatures, the Egyptians ensured that the sacred power of the animal kingdom would endure forever. The millions of animal mummies left behind are a silent testament to this profound and enduring belief system.